Oh, our thoughts, they're always there. Sometimes they just float by like harmless clouds you barely notice. Other times they grab you by the throat, loud, intrusive, demanding to be heard. And strangely, we often do one of these two things. We either act on them without any real pause, or we try to shove them aside, ignore them, distract ourselves, push through. What we rarely do is actually stop and think about our thinking. But thoughts are powerful. They influence our choices, shape how we relate to people, and determine how we see ourselves. They help us plan, reflect, create, solve. They're part of what allows us to do incredible things. Start a business, write a novel, fall in love, design a therapy model, get through a rough week. Our thoughts give us direction, possibility, clarity. They're one of the greatest tools we have as human beings. But that same power, it can turn on us. Thoughts, when they go unchecked or misunderstood, can keep us stuck. They can spin us into a state of paralysis. They can keep us convinced we're broken or doomed or unsafe, even when none of that is actually true. Thoughts are at the core of almost every mental health struggle. Depression, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, BPD, you name it. Let's take anxiety as an example. Someone with anxiety might find themselves going through endless what-ifs, planning for every possible scenario, mentally rehearsing how things could go wrong, not because they enjoy being stressed out, but because they're trying to feel prepared, safe, certain. It comes from a good place, but it leaves them feeling absolutely drained. Or in depression, the thoughts might sound like, why bother? Or this will never get better. Those thoughts are heavy, and sometimes they even feel like protection. It's like your brain is saying, if I don't get my hopes up, I won't have to feel disappointed again. It's trying to help, but it ends up hurting more than helping. And still, what's the most common advice people get? Just think positive. That phrase, I hate that phrase, because not only is it oversimplified, it's also completely unhelpful. It doesn't teach you how to relate to your thoughts differently. It just tells you to pretend like the hard ones don't exist. So, what should we do? How do we think about our thinking in a way that actually helps us? One of the most important distinctions I teach people is the difference between conscious thoughts and automatic thoughts. This comes from cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's something Judith Beck breaks down really well in her book, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, Basics and Beyond. Conscious thoughts are the ones we choose. I could ask you right now to think the sentence, I'm generally enjoying this video, and you could do it. That's a conscious thought. You're directing your attention and creating the thought on purpose. But then there are automatic thoughts, and these are a completely different story. Automatic thoughts are the ones that just show up. You don't choose them. They can come from your upbringing, your environment, your culture, your past experiences, your biology, so many different sources. And a lot of the time they feel like they're true. But just because a thought feels true doesn't mean it's actually true. So when we ask, how do I think about my thinking? We need to answer that in two parts. How to handle conscious thoughts, and how to handle automatic ones. Let's start with conscious thoughts. Here, you actually have some control, and one of the best shifts you can make is to stop trying to decide whether a thought is positive or negative, and start asking, is this thought useful? Because honestly, some of the positive thoughts aren't helpful at all. If you tell yourself, I'll get an A on this test, and then don't study, that's not a helpful thought. It's overconfidence. It might feel good in the moment, but it leads to consequences later. And some negative thoughts are incredibly important. If you've lost someone you love and you think, this hurts so much, that's painful but real. It's part of grief, and you should be allowed to feel that. So instead of positive versus negative, think in terms of utility. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me? Is this a useful way to see the situation? Is there a more balanced or honest way I can talk to myself? That's what makes a thought worth keeping, not whether it sounds upbeat, but whether it helps you navigate your life better. Now let's talk about automatic thoughts, the harder ones. These come fast. They're usually critical, and they often go completely unchecked. This is where therapy really focuses in, because the way you respond to your automatic thoughts determines whether they control you or lose their power. The key is metacognition, which just means becoming aware of your thinking, noticing your thoughts instead of absorbing them, almost like you're a researcher observing your own brain. You're not judging, just getting curious. That's interesting. I keep having this thought. What's that about? When an automatic thought pops up, ask yourself, is this thought 100% true? If I follow this thought, where is it going to lead me? Is there a more balanced way to look at this? You don't have to believe everything your brain throws at you. Some of it is just noise, old programming, stuff you picked up years ago that no longer serves you. Now, there are some really helpful techniques you can use here, especially ones that create space between you and the thought. One is from Russ Harris, author of The Happiness Trap. It's called the cartoon character technique, or silly voices technique. You picture the thought being said in the voice of a cartoon character. SpongeBob, Goofy, whoever you want. It's silly, yes, but it works. It immediately takes away some of the seriousness and authority from the thought. In that little bit of space, that's everything. Another great technique comes from Dr. David Burns from his book Feeling Great. He suggests reframing automatic thoughts with something more balanced. So let's say the thought is, I'm inadequate. You might respond with, I'm inadequate in some areas, but I'm also really capable in others. That's honest, that's grounded, and it's training your brain to see the full picture. But here's the thing, you're not trying to trick yourself into fake positivity. You're trying to move closer to truth, a fuller, more compassionate, more realistic version of it. And the more you practice this, the more automatic those balanced thoughts start to become. So if you're someone who gets caught in your head a lot, if you spiral, overthink, beat yourself up, get stuck in loops, try this out. Start noticing your thoughts. Not all of them need to be taken seriously. Some of them just need to be seen and let go. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And for more content like this, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you and see you in the next one.